Barbara Pierce Bush developed a love for language early in her life. As the daughter of a career magazine publisher, her mother and father read to her beginning the day she was born, on June 8, 1925, in Queens, New York. She met George Herbert Walker Bush at a Christmas dance when she was 16.
I don't know anyone funnier than he is.
They were engaged within a year and a half and married in 1945 when George returned home from the war. The couple moved more than 24 times during their marriage. They settled in Midland, Texas in 1950, where George built a business in the oil industry. Barbara raised their 5 children: George, Jeb, Neil, Marvin, and Dorothy. Little Robin died from leukemia just before her 4th birthday.
If you have 5 children, all 5 are very, very different. But in our case, all 5 are very close. Very close. I mean, it's wonderful, and it makes George and me, my husband and I, feel just great that they love each other so much.
The family moved to Houston in 1959, and 5 years later, Barbara began the first of a lifetime of political campaigns. George lost his Senate bid then, but was elected to Congress in 1966. He was named ambassador to the United Nations in 1971, then served as chairman of the Republican National Committee, chief liaison to China, and director of the CIA by 1976. Her return to Washington during this time was said to be very difficult, and Barbara suffered from depression. George was elected vice president, serving under Ronald Reagan in 1980. Neil's diagnosis as dyslexic many years before had renewed Barbara's interest in language and reading skills, and she made it her platform as second lady to confront both child and adult literacy.
I decided that I wanted to do something that would help George, that would help the most Americans possible without costing the government huge amounts of money.
She became the first candidate spouse to address the National Convention when her husband was nominated for president in 1988. Barbara was a key asset to the campaign. Appearing in ads emphasizing her domestic and motherly roles, she had a reputation for being outspoken and was said to be actively involved in campaign strategy. But for the most part, she kept out of political discussions and controversies. As First Lady, Barbara remained committed to bettering the literacy rate, which she called the most important issue America had, and founded the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy. She also made countless appearances on national radio programs, stressing the importance of reading aloud to children, and wrote a few children's books. She was a strong advocate of volunteerism and worked to eradicate homelessness and the spread of AIDS. Some say she took the loss of her husband's 1992 re-election bid to Bill Clinton personally. But she dove back into public service, supporting the Leukemia Society, the Boys and Girls Club, the Ronald McDonald House, and many more.
I loved reliving the most exciting life you've ever known. I mean, it really is.
Barbara Bush saw 2 of her sons, Jeb and George W., become 2-term governors of Florida and Texas, and George W. became the first president since John Quincy Adams to follow his father to the White House. Barbara got to see her son's presidential library and museum open in Dallas in 2013, a historic moment with all 5 living presidents and first ladies sharing one stage. Around that time, there were rumors of her son Jeb making a run at president, and his mom famously said in the press, "We've had enough Bushes in the White House." She later switched her position, saying while she was initially hesitant of the idea, she changed her mind because, quote, "Our problems are so profound that America needs a leader who can renew the promise of this great nation." With his mom's blessing, Jeb announced his candidacy for president in 2015. In her later years, Mrs. Bush suffered from a handful of health problems and hospitalizations. Looking back at her extraordinary life, few first ladies have been embraced by the American people like Barbara Pierce Bush, the matriarch of a modern-day political dynasty.
George Bush has really brought to my life the most exciting times. George has made my life sing.
It is that love story that many will remember them for. George and Barbara were devoted to each other in marriage for over 73 years.
Actually, he kissed me in public. It wasn't even a dramatic, exciting But I almost fainted. I was so excited.
And that was it.
That was it for me.
That's the guy.
And still,
Yeah.
I just can't tell you how much I love him.
In Washington, Brett Baer, Fox News.